Once upon a time, there was an annoyingly grateful tree. It had a nature that was eternally thankful, Pollyanna-ish, relentlessly upbeat, and for everything, from the day that had dawned to the air it could breathe to the sky it could see. The gratitude was gushing. Think Niagara. The tree rustled a constant breathy hymn of thanks, and yet more thanks, that grated on all the other trees around it. "Will you quit with all the thanking?" creaked the forest, often in unison, exhausted by the constant stream of exclamations. "Thank you for the frost." "I mean," the grateful tree's oldest neighbour shivered in disgust. The annoyingly grateful tree was not deterred. Nope, not one bit. It couldn't help itself, as many annoying things can't. Like sap rising, it bloomed forth with new buds of thankfulness in response. "But the sparkles! OMG! We look absolutely marvellous. And those itchy bugs in our bark crevices have all disappeared since we got frosted, haven't they?" The forest humphed a reluctant agreement, which the annoyingly grateful tree took as permission and just carried on. It must have been like living next to a neighbour who's constantly high, doing cartwheels naked on the front lawn. That can wear a little bit thin, unless you live next to a gorgeous creature. But even then, if you can't possibly put your house on the market, at some point, like on the school run, that's going to get on your nerves. Because that is the nature of trees, stuck with their neighbours for eons, lifetimes, forever maybe. And if all you know you'll hear for the foreseeable future is annoying effervescence shaking your treetops or jiggling your root system, it might make you start to wish for a lumberjack or Dutch elm disease. It is a funny thing how thanking isn't very contagious. Now criticising and gossiping, and yes, yawning, haven't missed that trick. But thank someone for their kindness, and often they don't know what to do with that response. Sarcasm they can handle, but, "Oh, thank you, I really appreciate that," not so much. In fact, gushing with gratitude can actually trigger a disgust response, for those wearing misery-tinted spectacles anyway, or dark green-tinted leaves. "If you don't shut up, I swear one of us will bend into the next lightning bolt in the hope of taking you out when we timber." The annoyingly grateful tree's oldest neighbour finally snapped one day. A large branch of it crashed to the ground to punctuate the threat. "Oh, thank you for the warning," gushed the grateful tree, impossibly chipper, as ever. "It's so nice to have neighbours like you guys. At least you'd all applaud loudly at my demise." Which was true. And the truth was, the annoyingly grateful tree actually could find a positive in just about anything. "What went wrong with your sprouting?" boggled the old boy of a tree, almost laughing, but stopping himself so as not to encourage. "Does nothing get you down? Not even the bark pecking or the days when the rain is impossible to breathe through and we just have to try to avoid drowning?" "Not really," said the annoyingly grateful tree, again speaking its truth. And then a few minutes later, after a rare silent pause for thought, "Maybe it's because when I was a sapling, a fox that escaped being chased came and lay on me, and it lay heaving and sweaty, and it felt like dark terror that I've never felt again and I never want to feel. So when it finally lifted off me, I was determined to grow high and strong and never be trapped like that again." Dear friend, we have few predators to our place in this world, so isn't that a reason to be joyful? Asked the annoyingly grateful tree. Then the tree's old neighbour was silenced, not least to ponder being called a dear friend. and there was undeniable truth to the annoyingly grateful tree's tale. Their forest was home to foxes and deer and wild boar, all hunted at every turn and lucky to live even half a lifetime, let alone eons. When the hunters descended with their packs of dogs, the dark terror came with them, and the stench of death hung across the forest floor for weeks, a sticky mist. But life and death are rare events for trees. Even a lumberjack, if a good one, waits decades to chop down his crop. "Maybe you could just find a quieter way of showing your appreciation," suggested a snooty pine tree who was listening in. "My cones keep dropping off before my seeds are fully formed with your incessant and breathy thank yous. Could you possibly think of another way?" So the grateful tree did. That autumn it bundled up all the energy it had previously gushed out without thought, and turned it inwards and forced it up through the veins of its leaves. It was feeling grateful from its deepest root to its smallest leaf node, and gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, it started to turn the most startling shade of shimmering gold. It displayed its thanks to the sun for the golden rays it had enjoyed, and then proceeded to pat the earth with gentle thanks as it dropped each leaf a visual fluttering applause and a blanket hug. Such a display had never been seen before. "Wowee! How are you doing that?" asked its previously nagging neighbours, interested now. "Shush," quieted the annoyingly grateful tree. "It's all in the depth of feeling. Just be grateful." And it returned to its glowing silence. Some trees did panic and chattered and gossiped as they watched the golden tree drop its leaves and become bare, look dead even. In fact, the irony was, in those weeks the forest became more noisy and unsettled than it had ever been before on account of the annoying trees gushing. Is it dying? Is it catching? Is it the end of the forest? Is it the end of the world? Has anyone got Google? You are all missing the point, the grateful tree's old neighbour clarified. My dear friend taught me that appreciating life removes death stench, and we are lucky to live pretty freely and as good as forever, unlike many among us. So, in time, and after spring proved the grateful tree did live on, in fact taller and stronger than ever, all apart from the most stuck-up evergreens that learnt the gratitude trick. Yes, every tree in that forest found its own way of displaying its thanks for the energy it drank from the sun and the nourishment it had pulled from the earth by turning its own shade of fiery copper or glittering gold or deep mahogany. And then that forest, as one, applauded, which of course drew the attention of other forests who caught on to the trick too. After that, every tree that dared to dabble with death by giving of its very self in true and deep felt gratitude from root to leaf node for its free and forever life, happened to find that by next year they were, without exception, taller and stronger than they had ever been. "I'm so grateful we found a way to do this, guys," exclaimed the grateful tree one glorious autumn day when the whole valley, yes, forest upon forest, as far as the eye could see, was applauding together. It just couldn't help itself. And aren't we grateful? I dare say, so are the fleeting foxes and their friends too.